the weekly podcast where people reach their goals and develop confidence one mind shift habit at a time. Let's join our host, certified coach Christina.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coach. This is the weekly podcast that helps you to live your best life by shifting your mindset. This episode of Conversations with Coach is sponsored by Christina Callaway Life Coaching LLC. And I'm pleased to announce that I will be releasing my first book about overcoming perfectionism later this year. There will be additional information in the show notes where you can support my efforts. This is your first time joining me here on Conversations with Coach. Welcome. I am your host, Certified Mindset and Confidence Coach, Christina Callaway. I partner with athletes, sports parents, sports coaches, and organizations, and together we develop the tools to increase their confidence and achieve their goals both on and off the field of play. I am super excited to have a returning guest. She is our resident career coach, and she has something new that she's doing, and I can't wait to hear her share about it. You know, one of the things I often talk about is being in a growth mindset, which will require you to often pivot when you least expect it. And our guest has done exactly that in her business. That's allowing her to serve her clients in a greater way. Who am I talking about? I am talking about none other than Coach Robyn Sessoms. Coach Robyn Sessoms is a certified life coach with over 25 years of corporate sales and marketing experience. That's a lot. She has extensive experience in career coaching, personal and professional development as well. She has held several leadership roles throughout her career. Coach Robyn has an MBA from Clark Atlanta University and a BA in International Relations from San Francisco State University. She has a certification in Business and Intercultural Protocol from the Protocol School of Washington. And most recently, she received her certification in Personal and Executive Coaching from the CAP Institute. That's where she and I met. Coach Robyn began her career in retail as an area sales manager, where she successfully led a team of 8 sales associates. Following graduate school, Coach Robyn spent several years in the pharmaceutical industry, where she became a top sales leader in her first year and ultimately became a regional trainer for newly hired sales representatives. Coach Robyn has been at CSX Transportation for the past 23 years, where she has held several senior marketing and sales roles. Throughout her tenure at CSX, Coach Robyn has participated in and led numerous professional development efforts, including oversight of the Sales and Marketing Leadership Development Program from 2011 to 2016. Coach Robyn is a passionate leader who strives for excellence in everything that she pursues. Coach Robyn resides in Jacksonville, Florida, where she lives with her husband of 28 years. They recently just celebrated that, and he surprised her with a trip. So cool. And she is the proud mother of 3 beautiful blessings. I want you to put some love in the chat and help me welcome back our guest, Coach Robyn Sessoms. Hello, Coach Robyn.
Hi, how are you, Christina?
I am doing well. Each time that I read your bio, I'm not really sure why it is, but I pick up something new that I didn't know about you. And I'm thinking, I didn't know that. Like, that is really neat. And to that point, all of the experience that you have gathered and garnered all over the years, whether it be in leadership, whether it be in leading others into more difficult tasks.
Yeah.
You did that. You've been married 28 years and you have 3 children. So this means a lot of these accomplishments was while you were the mother of at least 1 and 3 children. So
Yes.
for those who this is their first time joining you, first time meeting you, I want you to reintroduce yourself and then just share a little bit of your story.
Okay. Well, I'm Robyn Sessoms, and it's funny when I hear my bio read to me from somebody else, I hear things that not obviously I knew about, but maybe I'd forgotten about.
Right.
And so, but yes, so I have been in the corporate world for over 25 years, and I've always felt like my calling was to the marketplace, as
Mm.
opposed to I'm a very, very much so live my faith out loud, not meaning that
Mm-hmm.
I'm quoting scriptures all the time. It's just how I live my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always felt like there was purpose in the marketplace, and no matter what job that I held, I always wanted to impact people's lives. And I
Yes.
found that part of my gifting, that's the when I look back, and that common theme has always
Mm-hmm.
been in some kind of professional development, some kind of personal development, some kind of mentoring. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
because I was seeking it out. It's usually I was asked up or asked into or asked to be a part. So
Mm-hmm.
that gifting was apparent to other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that's been rewarding. So I've always done like job plus because I do have a passion for sales. I love sales, and I love
Nice.
marketing, and I like strategy and all of those things, and analyzing things and forecasting. I like that kind of thing. But even when I'm doing that, I'm always thinking about how can I be impacting people while I'm even doing that. So even if it's a customer,
Right.
internal or external, or a coworker or whomever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been a common theme, no matter what job that I've held or even volunteer things that I do. Um, the real shift came when I went into the corporate office working for CSX, because prior to that I was always in the sales field
Uh-huh.
and out and about. I will tell you, when I was in the field, one of the things areas that I really grew in was just learning more about core values and how important that is.
Oh, wow.
Because, you don't really have anyone, you're out there kind of by yourself. It can get lonely when you're out
Yeah.
there just in a territory. But my
Mm-hmm.
core values became so much of who I was and how I did what I did. And I
Mm.
didn't realize to what extent until I moved on, into the corporate office, and I began to see how important it was knowing who I was and who was this organization that
Right.
I'm aligning with, to even determine, is there real alignment? Do I even need to be working
Mm.
for this particular organization? And all of these things have become really foundational in my coaching business. So I
Yes.
did realize, all this has kind of come together later in life. You know how you look back
Yeah.
and you can kind of see that it's much more clear. What do they say in hindsight?
Yes.
2020.
Yep.
But I can remember even when I was out in the field
Mhm.
that, for instance, just operating in integrity,
Yes.
and the way I defined it was doing the right thing even when nobody could see me doing it. But
Exactly. Yep.
and and so I could cut a corner and really nobody would know about it. But then if
Mhm.
I'm okay with that, it snowballs.
It
But I was
does.
always mindful, like, but God can see this. And
Yes.
it's just not right. So let me do the right thing. And so
Mhm.
that's why I began to really focus on, what are my core values? What is most important to me? How do I want to conduct myself? How do I want to be seen,
Mhm.
and perceived, and all the other things? As I have, as you said earlier, when I became a mother,
Mhm.
that there was this balancing act. I think there's this tension that exists, for
Okay.
women in particular,
Mhm.
when we work outside the home and
Mhm.
we're raising a family. And then,
Yes.
it's one thing when you have one child and you start adding to it. So I have
Yeah.
three.
Mhm.
When the second one comes along, it's kind of divide and conquer. You take this one, I got this one,
Yeah.
but when the third one came along, I was like, I might as well have 10 kids, because it just kind of just it threw it off a little bit. But that tension, it was more intensified, and I wasn't sure how to manage through it. So a lot of
Yeah.
the last several years of my career was really finding that balance, and how do I manage this tension, and how am I even supposed to, you know,
Mhm.
handle
Mhm.
all this? And I saw other women trying to figure it out as well. you know.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. You mentioned some really good things in there. You talk about your faith and you talk
mhm,
about work being in the marketplace. And the
mhm,
first thing that came to my mind was is marketplace ministry. Like that
mhm,
is a huge thing right now. And to your point, it's not always walking around quoting scripture. However, it
mhm,
is living your life out loud forward so that
mhm,
others can see the guiding light, the
mhm,
principles, the values that you spoke about, what is behind you and all the
mhm,
things that
mhm,
you do, that it's not just about the job that you're doing, but to your point, the alignment between the two. And we hear companies having core values.
mhm.
And you and I both know that whether as individuals we sit down and actually write out what our core values are, there are just innate things that we value.
Yeah,
And sometimes, I know oftentimes when I'm working with someone and I ask them what are their core values, it stumps them because they're
right,
like, I don't know.
right.
What would you, since core values is so strongly for you and it actually is your compass that
Mhm,
guides you in all decisions and especially
mhm,
in the workplace, what would you advise a mom or women just in general,
mhm,
um, as to how to first of all identify what their values are and
mhm.
then how to apply that to their strengths?
Yeah, that's a great question because it took me so long to figure that out for myself,
Yeah.
let alone try to advise someone else how they might go about navigating that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I say is, what are the things that are most important to you? What are the
Mm-hmm.
things that are most important to you in, and it could vary from when I'm at home, this is what's most important to me versus when I'm at work, these things are more important to me. But sometimes there are some common themes. So for
Mm-hmm.
instance, I like to work, I like to have a certain amount of autonomy when I work. And I think
Okay.
that's what appealed to me when I was in the sales arena, when I was out in the field. I liked that because it was like my own little business
Mhm,
that I
yeah,
got to run. And I liked that they gave me the latitude to make certain decisions. You
yeah,
know, there are boundaries always with any organization, but
mhm,
it wasn't being micromanaged. I wasn't having to run every decision by someone else. They hired me and they empowered me
mhm,
enough to make certain decisions, and I had budgets and things like that. So I like that a lot,
mhm, mhm,
and that carried over even more so when I went into marketing in the corporate world, because then I was literally running, like $90 million markets, and so
wow,
and doing contract work and making decisions, and you can make an error that could cost you, $1 million. That's a lot of money.
mhm,
And
that's a
so,
lot of money.
but I actually like the challenge of all of that. So those kinds of things that challenged me strategically and intellectually, where I could put strategies together, where I could forecast, where I could do a host of things, and
Mhm,
also working collaboratively, I think is really important. So when you
mhm,
talk about core values, it's not always the ethical things that we think about.
oh, that's
People
good.
people think about honesty, integrity, and I would hope that you would desire to just live your life that way.
Yeah,
But think about what kind of environment is most conducive to you to bring out the best in you. So
nice,
that that's
nice.
that's in a nutshell how I
Yeah, I
advise.
like the fact that you said that core values isn't only about what do you do when no one's looking, being honest, having
Mhm,
integrity, that those should just be innate qualities that an individual has. Not everybody does, and we are aware of that, but everyone
mhm,
should strive to be their best selves whenever
mhm,
they and all things that they do. But how
mhm,
to identify that separation between the core values of them and their how they can apply those core values into their
mhm,
work, and then maybe look at some additional ones. Now, we probably have some women who are listening.
mhm,
Some may be moms and some may not be moms.
mhm.
And with everything that we've been through in the past 3 years, there's been a tremendous shift in the workforce for
Yeah.
everyone and specifically for women.
Mhm,
There used to be a time where women struggled to they didn't want to tell anyone that they had children, or they didn't want to
right.
say I'm pregnant, or they didn't want to How have you seen in your work with career moms
Mhm,
and women, how
mhm,
have you seen this shift
mhm.
go?
Mm, that's another great question, Christina, because it has shifted. Um, I would say prior to the pandemic, and prior to the pandemic, what I would see, there was that tension. There's almost like this little dance you try to do.
Mhm.
You want to keep the employer happy, but at the same time, um, Junior has soccer practice or soccer games coming in, and Susie has, a track meet, or you want to be present.
Yeah.
Also, how am I present here, but also how am I conveying to my employer that
Yeah.
I am 100% engaged, with that
Mm.
work. And so there was always that tension. I
Mhm.
want to share a little story. I might have shared it last time, but it bears repetition.
Yes.
When it comes to, you mentioned about some women when they get pregnant and they're working
Mhm.
outside of the home in the organization, and some women don't even want to share initially just because of potential perceptions and
Yes.
mindsets and all kinds of things. And it's not only just men, sometimes there are women in the workplace who are just as bad,
Yeah.
well,
Oh, yeah.
some of the men. But I had experience, I ran up against the mindset with when my first child was about just over a year old. And this is what prompted me to look elsewhere and leave the pharmaceutical industry, even though
Mhm.
at the time it was very difficult because that was my dream job. And I thought I was going to build my whole career, in the pharmaceutical industry. And I didn't. That forced me to think about what is really most important to me
Yes.
right now. So my life has changed. I am a
Mhm.
mother, and that's just so non-negotiable because it didn't take me long to get there. But once
Right.
I got there, I was like, okay, so now what do I need to do? Well, I'm going to vote with my feet. In this case,
Yes.
I'm going to vote with my feet because the person that I was reporting to at the time had a bias that I didn't know he had until after I became a mother. And that was he didn't believe that women could work outside the home effectively for the corporation and be a mom. Like you just can't do both.
Wow.
Bias. So I'm not judging him, but it had a lot to do with his upbringing.
Mhm.
But I was like, well, he's entitled to that, and I don't have to be subjected to that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look elsewhere. So that happened, but it made me very sensitive because it was wrong, um,
Mhm.
to other women or some other
Yes.
women who might be facing that. So if you fast
Mhm.
forward several years, when I was over the leadership development program, there was a young lady who was she was a manager, and she was already placed in her role where she was pregnant with her first child.
Mhm.
She didn't do anything to draw extra attention to herself. We could see she was very focused on her work. She still did stellar work, etc. But
Mhm.
she asked me to pop into her office one day, and she was probably almost in her third trimester.
Mhm.
So the long and short of it was the person that she reported to, who also happened to be the person that I reported to, asked her to consider not taking as much time off from work
For maternity?
for maternity leave because um, the weight of her workload was falling on the team, and that really is not that fair to them. So
Oh
she
my gosh. Wait a
right,
second.
right. This is the
Whew.
21st century.
I was just going to ask you when was this?
This was
So let me just make sure I heard that right. The person who was this person directly reported to
Mhm,
suggested that she not take as much of the maternity leave that by law she is due
mhm,
because her absence would negatively impact the
mhm.
workload for her team.
For her team, and this was a woman, a mother, who was saying this to her. So
Yeah.
so that sent me to a place. So I immediately had to calm down because
Mhm.
she wanted to know my thoughts on that, and
Mhm.
she wanted advice. And so I'm not big on telling people what they should do, but I am big on giving
Right.
people things to think about and to consider so they can make a better
Mhm.
informed decision. So I said, well, first of all, what does the policy say? What's the company policy? And so she told me, and it was 12 weeks. So I think she was being asked to take like 9 weeks or something like that. I said, okay, what is it that you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was planning on taking the 12,
Right. Of
we've
course.
worked it out with my husband, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. I said, then if that's what you want to do, then that's something you should consider. I can't tell you
Mm-hmm.
what to do, but that's between you and your husband, and you have to have peace of mind with that. I will
Right.
say that that particular leader was out of line because that goes against the company policy, and their action is actually reportable.
It is. I was just going to say, on a legal side, they could have
Yeah,
gotten in some hot, steamy water
exactly.
there.
Right. That's kind of an HR nightmare, that kind of
It is.
move. So you take that for what it's worth, and you consider that, and then you make a decision that you have peace with,
Mm-hmm.
despite what that person is saying to you.
Right.
So, she ended up taking the 12 weeks, but I will tell
Good for
you
her.
that the other person did not care for that and really took that to heart, took it personally. That means, so they had other issues that they were
Mm-hmm.
projecting on that young lady, but it caused such confusion. It
Mm-hmm.
caused high anxiety. It caused a whole lot of things it shouldn't have. That shouldn't have
Right.
even happened, but it did. So I felt like those kind of situations be asked because of how I conducted myself. I don't go in the workplace asking permission if I can take time off to go to my son's soccer game or my daughter's basketball game. It's more like, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
And, the work, this is the work, this is what my deliverables, these are the things that I have, I'm working on right now, and they will
Mm-hmm.
be completed by this time, just to eliminate any kind or minimize any kind of concern about my work getting done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I carry myself. But I had to
Absolutely.
grow to that place, and it
Yep.
has everything to do. That's just not, that's a boundary that I set, and it's almost like the way that I carry myself. It's not in a intimidating way, but it's just a matter of fact.
Yes.
There's a boundary that's set, and if you cross it, that's not a good thing, to do,
Yes.
cross that boundary when it comes to my
Yes.
family.
Yes. Yes. So just hearing the story and then also learning that the leader was a mom herself. We've got some listeners and viewers that are tuning in right now,
Mhm.
and their ears just perked up because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm either in this situation, about
Mhm.
to be in this situation, or know someone who is in this situation. What would you, and or someone may be a leader and thinking these things, what would be, if you could have spoken, I don't know if you did or not, but if you could have spoken to that leader, what would you have said to that individual to help them to recognize they were completely out of order?
Yeah, that's so hard because I think I did have a conversation with her, not a proactive one, because
Right.
that wasn't my place to do that,
Uh-huh.
but she brought it to me. So I did hear her side of it. What
Gotcha.
it stemmed from, that whole approach that she took, it stemmed from her own mindset from way back when she was a mother. Because her, at that time, her daughters were like in college, like 20, 21 years old at
Mm-hmm.
the time that
Mm-hmm.
all this happened. So 20 years earlier, when she was becoming a mother, she put pressure on herself. So I asked her a
Ah.
question. I said, well, was anyone pressuring you? Was anyone making you feel bad about, she said, oh no, as a matter of fact, they said, listen, you go and you enjoy your baby. You enjoy that time. You don't worry about this. We've got this. She
Mm.
was unable for whatever reason to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
she felt guilty. She felt like,
Mm-hmm.
my team shouldn't have to pick up my workload. I should be able to do. So she was projecting all of that on
Mm-hmm.
this young lady.
Mm.
I wasn't sure that in that moment there was a whole lot I could do to help her see anything different. But what I did share, because she was talking about the young lady and just not in a positive way. It just wasn't a great conversation. And at
Mm-hmm.
that point, I didn't want to say too much because I didn't feel like I could really influence a lot. So I just
Mm-hmm.
more or less wanted to hear where she was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But when she said that, I said, well, all I know is once you become a mom and you have that baby and that time you spend, you can never, ever get that
Get that
back.
back. You can't.
And I give 110, 200, 1,000% at work.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Mm-hmm.
hard worker. No one's ever going to question the quality of what I do. Am I engaged when I do it? None of that is ever in question. Always got to
Yeah.
exceed expectations and performance management and things like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
so when I take time off, I'm going to be just as engaged as a mom. But rest assured, any organization that supports a woman and
Mm-hmm.
that life is happening to her in that season, and
Mm-hmm.
they're supportive and helping her, come back and transition smoothly back to work, you're going to have a very loyal employee on your hands. If you make
Uh-huh.
it difficult, now if you make it difficult for that particular employee, then she may come back while she's figuring out what she wants to do next. And that's
Right. On her way out. She may come
well,
in to go out.
exactly.
That's exactly
So,
right.
so I just kind of gave that kind of food for thought, just something to think about. Like, why would you not support? Because this woman was stellar. She ended up leaving not because her husband got a job out of state or something like that. I forget the reason why, but she ended up leaving. But what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting, Christina? A
Mm-hmm.
couple of years later, we had a sales position to open up in the city where she moved to, and she applied for it. And she actually went back to this particular leader to get her endorsement, and she did not endorse her. Now, this young lady doesn't know that. I found out after the fact. But
Right.
this young lady, she said, yeah, she wanted to come back, but you know what? And she referenced when she took that 12 weeks.
Oh my
She
goodness.
referenced it and said she left her team in a lurch, and that wasn't even true, but that was her
I'm
perception.
sorry, ma'am, but having a baby is not leaving anyone in a lurch. You are,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. If there are any leaders listening, if this has been shared with you, the thing that I would like for you to take away is, to Robin's point, we all are guided by our personal experiences. That's
Mhm.
what leads our mindset. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, our experience can have us in a fixed mindset.
Mhm.
And you shared that she did not have the pressure of not taking her maternity leave, but for whatever reason, whether it's the expectation that she grew up under, that women should, return soon after bearing children, they should return back to working, whether it's inside of the home or outside of the home. Those could have
Mhm.
all been
Mhm.
extenuating circumstances. I say that to say, if you're a leader that's watching this or tuning in, do an inventory check when it comes to leading women. Men and women are different, and they're
Mhm.
going to have life experiences, and specifically what we're talking about, and bearing children and having children and deciding that they want to raise a family and work outside of the home, that deserves some extra attention. It's certainly during a time where they're very vulnerable that they're not expecting that. But to use language such as "you're leaving other people in a lurch because you are choosing to expand your family," it's not a healthy place, and it doesn't make for a healthy work environment for anyone. And I know I mentioned about the pandemic. One of the things I remember reading during the pandemic was how it affected women, just women in
Mhm.
general. And a lot of that had to do with working women, that they were the first ones to be released from their jobs. They were the first ones that felt like that they had to, so that they could be at home to homeschool the kids. And
Mhm.
so re-entering back into the workforce after that 3 year has not been easy for women at all.
Mhm.
And I think you and we're really big on visions and having your own vision. What would you say to the career mom who's like, yeah, it's been 3 years. I'm finding it difficult to get back out there, like whether granting an interview or just the positions being available that I want to do.
Mhm.
How can them owning their vision help them to push beyond their challenges?
Whew, that's a loaded one. because there's the impact of the pandemic. I think we're still just seeing some residual effects of that even 3 years. It'll be 3 years after. When I
I
talk
know.
about owning your vision, I really challenge my clients that come to me. Most of them come because they say, I want a career change, because they think the issue is the work. They think the issue is, well, this is not conducive, and maybe it isn't conducive. But the root of what they're dealing with most of the time, 9 times out of 10, has to deal with some kind of a mindset
Mm,
and some internal work that needs to be done. Because when we start
mm.
peeling those layers of the onion back and we start unpacking some of the things that they say they want to talk about, and I start asking those powerful questions. And when I say powerful questions, it's not like some really slick question. A lot of times it's like, well, tell me more about what you just said,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
know?
getting them to think about what it
Yeah.
is that their own challenge and solving it.
Exactly. Or they use a certain
Mhm.
word, and they've used that word 3 times in 30 seconds
Mhm.
or something like that. And I notice things like that. I'll say, well, I've noticed this. What do you mean? If I heard you say this, what does that mean to you? Or
Mm.
something like that. Just again, but really stepping back. And I really challenge women to define what their vision really is. And I do have an exercise that I carry them through. You and I have gone through this exercise, but I really slow it down and work
Mhm.
and walk through it with my clients so
Mhm.
they can put their vision together. And it's not just a career vision, because a lot of times
Right.
we think vision, we think of professional type of
Mhm.
a vision, or for work or career or something like that, or a
Yeah.
business we want to start, but we don't think about vision for family.
Yeah.
What's a vision for my health?
Yes.
What's a vision for
Exactly.
my finances? Because
Yes.
any career decision that's made is going to impact every one of those things.
Mhm.
They're
Yes.
interrelated, and our career is a component of the totality of our life, if you will. So,
Mhm.
what's most important? Our family, our relationships, our spiritual life, for many people,
Mhm.
for most
Oh,
people,
yeah. Mhm.
finances, career,
Mhm.
and health. Those are the five major. And then there are other things depending on the person, but those are five things. And it's not like but what we look at, we're like, we have our career, and then there's our life.
Yes, it always goes down. The
It's like
tone tends to
career,
drop down. It's like I've got my career and then I've got my life. It's like, wait a second. It's like it
right.
should be I've got my life and I've got my career.
Yeah. And it's a part of it. It's not the
Yes.
totality of who we are.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
really have my clients step back and help them to define, like, what is your vision for all of these different areas? And
Mhm.
when they do that, there's usually something that jumps out. There's something that rings true. There's something that they hadn't thought about or realized. Just the way that I help them navigate through that. So, for example, there's one woman, and she's a single mom working, and I tell you what, she has a vision of being an executive one day in the corporate world. She also too is called to the marketplace.
Mhm.
So I did a team coaching session, but per the request of her boss.
Mhm.
And I walked them through putting together their vision. And
Mhm.
so when we got to relationships, that's what really, she had a multitude of aha moments during that time. And she just,
Nice.
because she said, when I describe like who I want, how I see myself, how I really want to be seen, I've been a people pleaser. That's what jumped out to her. She said, I have been a people pleaser, and
Wow.
I don't like that being like that. And that's not healthy. And I didn't even realize to what extent, and it had permeated through every area of her life,
Mhm. Yeah.
including her job. It's more focused
Mhm.
on managing up and impressing the higher ups and all
Yep.
that. And that's not the way to get ahead. So once she, realized that, she's like, I got work to do on my relationships. Before any of this is going to work, I have to work on me and how I'm viewing myself, and why am I so bent on pleasing people. So, that was a huge breakthrough
I mean,
for.
a tremendous breakthrough right there, just recognizing and being able to verbalize, I recognize that this is who I am and this is who I am up to this point.
Mhm.
And now I can create my vision from a different lens as opposed through the lens of, well, how is this decision going to affect others? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now,
Yes.
I know recently you shared with me, because a lot of times when people think about visions, and I know companies are guilty of this as well. They'll write their vision and then it doesn't change. And I'm like, is the company out of business?
Right.
Because I mean, if you equate vision as seeing things forward, it's like, and I know when I'm driving, the scenery changes. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
stay the same. Even if I'm driving the same route, over
Right.
time, there's a new building that has come up, a new stop
Yeah.
sign, maybe a bridge has been put over as
Exactly.
an overpass and they remove the stop sign. But the point that I'm trying to make is things within eyesight definitely change, and being able to, as a career mom, being able to shift and how to
Mhm.
make that shift. And I know for you within your own business, you've recently experienced that. Share a little bit
Mhm.
more about how you've done that and the impact that it had with your family.
Yeah. I'll tell you, when I first started this whole journey to just be a life coach, so going through the process of certification, and then we all have been through, what's my niche? What's my niche? And
Mhm.
but it's like, who do I serve?
Mhm.
And I always have known that I'm serving women in one way or another. That's
Mhm.
just, and I love that. And I started out with career transition,
Mhm.
and I would say that I haven't fully like abandoned that. That's
No.
not what's happened here. I just pivoted, and I'm
Mhm.
focused more on career-minded moms,
Right.
because those are the people that are really drawn to me,
Yes.
more so that seek me out for the help. And if my brethren, if any brothers are out there watching now, I'm here for you, because I have had some men say, listen, I
Mhm.
looked at your website and I see all these young women on there, but if you can work with an old dude like me, and say, I really want your and
Yes.
so there have been some men that we have been a great match, and I have
Mhm.
helped them, and I've helped them to accelerate their own process and really fine tune their own vision, and all the things, and put a strategy together, et cetera. But I pivoted because of the mindset. I pivoted
Mm.
because there was so much deeper work
Mhm.
that needed to be done internally, and I just, as a new coach, I was like, oh well, they want to pursue their career in being an author, of a
Right.
book writer. So I
Right.
did have
Right.
a woman. She's like, I want to write books. I want to be an author, and she kept
Mhm.
saying, I want to be. I want to be. And she had published a book.
Oh,
So
wait, what?
and exactly. So I said, well, let's back up. How do you define author? What's the definition of an author, and what does that look like? Well, they've written a book, they've done this, they've done. I said, okay, how many books have you written? Well, I've
Mm,
written one. And have you sold any of those books? Yeah, I've sold several, many copies. I said, so by your own definition, what does that make you?
you're an author,
You're an author.
a
She
published
just,
author.
yeah, but there was so many cobwebs in the mind
Yeah.
that I realized that were just surfacing.
Yes.
So there was another body of work that needed to be done. And at that time, I wasn't working on vision and focusing in on core values and things like that.
Mhm.
She would have benefited tremendously from that
Mm.
exercise, tremendously, and really seen herself in a different light. It would have helped her to come out of that. It would have helped her to see what was really holding her back in her mind,
Mhm.
body image issues. There was a lot going on there.
Mhm.
So, and all of that was preventing her. And she shared that she knows the books that she wants to write.
Mm.
She shared some of the topics. And I can tell you, Christina, that there are many people out there, especially women, who need what is in her, that gifting. They
Wow.
need it. And I said, what can I do to
Oh.
help you get beyond this so you can get these books written? Because there are people, and that's the whole thing. That this is kind of my
Mhm.
why I do what I do. And I'll try to say it and keep my commitment. This is why I do what I do.
Mhm.
I can't describe how painful it is for me to see someone like her
Mhm.
with all that God-given gifting and talent,
Mm.
with a clear-cut message
Mhm.
that countless people need to hear. And she's the one that's been designated to share that message, but yet she's
Yes.
holding back, and people are not able to be just them hearing this message would unlock something in them and unleash something in them so they can go forth in their purpose. They can go forth
Yes.
in their vision. That's why I do what I do. That's why I work, with women in particular,
Mm-hmm.
and help them to see that you working outside the home and you being a mother doesn't have to clash and be a conflict.
It's not a this or
No,
that. It's
no.
this and that. And
It's
just
this and.
helping people understand that, to your point, they have so many giftings and talents that are needed, and by them kind of holding back because of the belief possibly that they can't have it all. Maybe they've been told, well, you can't have it all. You've got to choose. You're either going to have a family or you're going to have a career, but you're not going to have both. And I want you, as we get ready to wrap up, I want you to speak to that and just confirm that, yes, as women, as moms, we can have it all.
You can have it all. You may not be able to have all of it at one time, but you can have it all.
Yes.
There's a woman that goes to my church, and she was going to participate in that vision challenge that Valerie Burton had last week. And she actually dialed in one of the days I saw her because I was, hey, how are you doing? And she said, I didn't go through. I cannot. And she has 4 school-age children, 4, and the youngest are twins. And she was like, I don't have the bandwidth. I said, I get it. You're at that season in your life where there's some things that you're not going to be able to do right now.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that at some point you'll be able to. I have 2 adult children and a teenager that is 2 years from going away to college. So I'm at a different stage, and I do have more bandwidth. But let me just say this. The most important thing, and this is why I hone in on vision. This is why I really zero in on core values. This is why I zero in on identifying and owning your strengths and owning your vision and owning all of that. It is vital that once you do that, that's when you just really step into who you really are. That's where we have the confidence to say, these are my core values. Kind of, this is what you're getting when you get me, and you grow into that. And that's your true authentic self begins to emerge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the people in our sphere of influence, starting with our families, our kids need to see.
Yes.
Their authentic mother, because it gives them permission to be who they are.
Come on. Yes. That part.
And then they will begin to celebrate who you are even more. My kids come to me now, like they want that kind of coaching. My daughter actually got on, because I told her, I said, listen, I'm your mom. I can give, I'll listen. I call myself the young adult consultant. You can hire me for my services, but I said, if you want coaching, you have to get on my coaching calendar, because I have hours for that. I take it seriously, and the answers are in you.
There you go.
So she got on my calendar. And
I just love what you said about being the example for their children. If you find yourself, you're a career mom, or you desire to be a career mom, and as you mentioned, your friend just said, hey, I've got 4 school-age children and I just don't have the bandwidth for it. Helping that individual to see that you don't have to have all of the things right now. It's the seed that you plant with the bandwidth that you have that you will be able to water. And so I appreciate you saying that your daughter has even benefited from the knowledge that you have as a coach, and feels safe enough and comfortable enough to come to you to ask for that type of a guidance. That would not exist had you not modeled that in front of her. If you had not modeled that, hey, I can be this career person, and I am this career person, but I'm also your mom. And them recognizing the two. And I know this to be true too, as I'm sure you do as well through your own children. As you are, because I remember seeing my mom. As I'm seeing my mom work outside of the home, it then became incumbent upon us as kids to make the home life easier for her, because she's gone all day. Now, that was an expectation for us growing up in that generation. We had a lot of assignments that kids nowadays at a young age did not have when they were out, when we were their age. However, the example that was set for my mother it told me that those things are possible for me as a woman, and
Yeah.
that I can make it happen. I can fit it in, and I
Mhm.
can do those things. And so I really appreciate you sharing how your friend was very felt safe and transparent with you, your own daughter. And I
Mhm.
also appreciate you, the way that you approach your coaching business,
Mm.
where it is, I don't mind just talking with you in general, but if we're going to go in depth, I'm going to get you on the calendar
Mhm.
because you deserve that time, that dedicated time to
Yeah.
yourself, and you deserve that dedicated focus and concentration from me and my profession. So I appreciate you saying
Mm.
that. And I think as women, sometimes we feel guilty about being focused on one thing because all
Right.
of the things are expected from us. So you just sharing even that little bit
Mm.
of, okay, I have a calendar for that. And
Mhm.
if we're going to dive deeper, but setting the boundaries, again, knowing your value, knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your vision is, having
Mhm.
just a roadmap. I
Mhm.
mean, some of us are adventurous enough that we will embark on going on the trip without a map. Most of
Mhm.
us are not. Most of
Mhm.
us want that GPS. We need that GPS to give us the guidance of where it is that we're toward our destination. And
Mhm.
the values is the foundational part of that. And then you build your vision through that, through your strengths. And I just really appreciate that so much. Robyn, I thank you so much for coming on my show. I tell you what, we might have to make this like a once a month or once a quarter type thing, because there's
I would
always
love.
just so much value that you add to this conversation, just a different perspective of being able to look at things, and especially for
Yeah.
we as women, because it is different for us. There are
Mhm.
just things that women are going to have to deal with that men don't, and vice
Right.
versa. But it's nice to be able to have someone such as yourself that we can come to partner with and be
Mhm.
able to get our vision, identify what our core values are, what our strengths are, and how to apply that to
Mhm.
our vision in those 5 very important categories. I want
Right.
to share with the audience how they can partner with you.
Yeah.
They can, everyone, I want you to go to Instagram, and I want you to start following her. I want you to get in her DMs and say, hey, I need to talk with you. We need to do a deeper dive. You just uncovered some things that I needed to listen to. It was hard, but I needed to listen to. You can also follow her on Facebook. Don't worry, all of this is going to live in the show notes. You all know how I do it. And if you are ready to schedule your clarity call, Robyn is amazing. She gives you 30 minutes of her
Mhm.
time
Mhm.
free of charge.
Yes.
That is her gift to you. Take her up on it, because I will tell you, as a coach, that is not the norm. That is part
No.
of her values,
Mhm.
and that is part of her vision for her company. Take
Mhm.
her up on it. Make sure that you reach out to her. And for the final thoughts, I want you, when it comes to being a savvy career mom,
Mhm.
what is the one mindset shift you want to encourage them to make?
Know that you're already savvy. You are who you are. And sometimes we have a little dirt that's covering up. You know how you, trying to think of a good analogy, but like you walk out the door and you have a pathway that leads to your front door. And let's say there were storms last week, right? And
Yep,
you have
it
like
was.
mud and dirt that covers it up and you can't
Yep,
see it, but it
I
doesn't mean
do.
the pathway's not there.
That's right.
But
That's
once
right. You're so right.
but once you start to clear that up in the form of mindset and perceptions and self-doubt and all those things and thoughts, confidence issues, that's the kind of dirt and mud that I'm talking about. So once we
Mm.
start digging through that and you remove some of that, then you begin to see who you were all along.
I like that part. Repeat that again.
I said, once you start to uncover, you start to peel that back and you start to eliminate some of those doubts. You start to flip the mindset. So it's not so
Mhm.
fixed, but it's a growth mindset. It's you're moving forward again and you're uncovering, you're kind of rediscovering who you all were all along.
Who you were all along. That is so key, Robyn, because a lot of times when women are making that shift to become career moms, they want to reinvent themselves and become a different persona. They don't need to do that.
No,
Be who you
be who
are
you
at
are.
your core, and add that to the next career move that you make, whether
Yes.
it is a career outside of the home or whether you decide to start your own business
Yeah.
and be the savvy career mom that you already are. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for reminding us of that. I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
And you're so welcome. And I'm serious about that. I want you to really think about it, pray about it,
me.
coming on and us having a conversation. I know you've got your own podcast in the works, and I can't wait to be a
I
part of that.
do. I
And
do.
so that means that you will have to come back so that you can tell us about when it's going to start. So Robyn is a great example of being a career mom, and she absolutely has it all. And that is because she has the mindset that she is already a savvy career mom. Robyn, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, everyone.
And there you have it. It goes by so fast now, doesn't it? I know it does. I enjoyed that conversation. If you find yourself being a career mom and sometimes you just feel like it's enough to keep all the balls from it, like hitting you in your head, I want you to let the proverbial balls hit the ground. And I want you to go and schedule a call with Coach Robyn Sessoms so that she can help you to pick them up back one at a time and be able to juggle them and be the savvy career mom that you already are. I appreciate you so much for following me on all of my platforms and for tuning in every week. I don't take that for granted. You could be choose to do anything else, but you have chosen to be with me on a weekly basis, and I appreciate your support. If you're not following me on all of my social media, why don't you do that today? I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all at Christina Mindset Coach. And if you're watching and you have a young athlete or a collegiate level athlete, or maybe you yourself are a professional athlete, and right now perfectionism is hindering your performance, it has lowered your confidence and it's making your goals difficult to achieve, I'm your girl. I'm the one that you want to go to this website and schedule your clarity call so that we can get on a plan and create a vision for you to actually overcome your perfectionism. I appreciate you so much. And until next time, make sure you remember your life is only as good as your mindset. Make it a great one.
Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Coach. Please be sure to follow Coach Christina on all of her social media platforms. And remember, life is only as good as your mindset.